Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be building an Onager fleet using Ryan Kingston's fleet builder. I will put a link to this builder in the description below. I already did a Starhawk build. I figured I'd do an Onager build, even though I kind of talked the other day about Onagers and how you might face them. Today I wanted to actually do an Onager build. Since a couple of people have been asking me about that, I figured it was time. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to be looking at, well, let's look at both different Onagers, figure out which one we want to do. Before I choose, though, I want to remind you guys about the 12 Days of Life Day giveaway that's going on right now. We've already had 2 giveaways. There's 10 more to go. All you have to do if you want to have a chance to win one of those, all you do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. I'll be announcing those all month long. Some will be on Facebook and or Twitter, but the most will be here on YouTube. So you can follow me on those other links down in the description below as well. And if you're interested in joining Patreon, patrons are going to get anything that doesn't get claimed come January. So any of these giveaways that don't get claimed will be available to patrons. All right, so back to the build. In the last video I did about Onagers, I talked about, if you were to face like a triple Onager build. I'm just going to do one Onager for this one. Now, we've got the test bed, which I kind of like its arc a little bit better if you can manage to get, a really good shot, because you can get more black dice. I kind of like that. You got, it seems like higher damage potential out of this one. You get more red dice, more black dice. You got more potential of double damage dice, which is pretty cool, to be fair. If I'm being perfectly honest, it is pretty cool. But I'm leaning more towards for this particular build. I think for most of my builds, I'll probably end up using the test bed more so. I feel like I'll be using the test bed most of the time. But in this one, I'm going to use the Onager class Star Destroyer. And this one is actually, it's pretty cool, because when you look at these two, the test bed is actually not a Star Destroyer. And even though it's the exact same ship, certain things change between the two, because since the Onager Star Destroyer is an actual Star Destroyer, it can potentially take that 7th Fleet Star Destroyer title. Now, I'm not going to do that in this particular build, but that would be kind of cool, because the way the dots are on the side, the front arc is, the most prominent arc. So it could actually be one option, but I'm not going to do that here. But I'm going to run the Onager class Star Destroyer as my Onager here. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. First thing that I want to do is, I think it'd be fun to run Vader as our commander here, because we can reroll those special ignition attacks, which would be really fun. And I like the option of being able to do that. I'm going to start with my heavy weapons first, because first thing I want to run Gunnery Chief Varnillian. She is basically going to let you start with a die on her, depending on if you're first or second player. That die might be blank, or you might be able to make it any face. So we're going to try and be first player with this particular build, though. So it'll be blank. That's no problem. We've got Vader for rerolls, right? So Vader works with her. We can swap in, if we have something good or with something decent, no problem. Basically my thought is probably by second turn we're going to be shooting, because I'm not going to run, I'm going to run a different title here. So by second turn, I think I'm going to be shooting. I'm going to swap Varnillian in right away, and use Vader to spend a die to reroll. And, so it doesn't matter at all that she's got a blank die there. Not at all, because we got Vader there. So he works perfectly with her, I think. Now, and that'll be a really fun one. I think that'll be a really good combination. For our other weapons team, I'm going to run another weapons team here, and I'm going to run Fire Control Team. This is one of those upgrades you almost never run. Now, as much as I'd like the possibility of running Gunnery Team, Brooks had said in the live stream that since that ignition attack is a special attack, that it is that you're not going to be able to fire twice out of it, even if you have something like Gunnery Team, which also rules out advanced gunnery, I think, for this type of ship. So I'm not going with Gunnery Team here. I am going to go with Fire Control Team, because we're going to try and get some crits, and that is really why I went with the Onager Star Destroyer, because we have slightly more critical potential here. So what are we going to run on this thing? Well, first off, I mean, we got plenty more things, right? One of the things is, and since this version has the turbo laser icon, one of the things that I can do is I can add, some critical stuff here. So I am actually thinking of, and this is kind of cool because there's so many cool things that you can do with this, like quad battery turrets, for example. All right, like that would be really cool. Like if you're not running a super weapon, you still get an ignition attack, but it's just at close range, so it's not quite as far. But quad batteries would be a cool thing to do there. I might experiment with that once Wave 8 comes out. Not running a super weapon at all, and just counting on something like this, or like other upgrades to somehow help that ignition attack at the shorter ranges, but. For right now, I am thinking, what are we thinking? I'm thinking of criticals, right? So I want to go with the XX9. First 2 damage are going to be face up. Well, that's pretty cool. We got a really great, front arc there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Higher chances of getting crits this way, though. So that's kind of the other thing that makes this one better, too. You got the 2 blacks. You've got a chance there. Pretty good chance there. And then you've got 2 blue, which gives you another pretty good chance. So slightly better chances, at least, compared to the red that you would get. Actually, I think you're probably about the same. No, I think you have a slightly better chance because blue and black have the same chance of getting crit, but you have one extra, die. So you basically have one extra critical symbol in your ignition arc. So that's pretty good. XX9's decent. But we also are going to run a super weapon, which is another crit. Now, this one wants a red crit. Now, this one is harder to run. Either one of these, they want red crits. You actually have a slightly harder time on this one, but that's what Gunnery Chief of Arnillion is for. So if we end up being second player, we can set that to a red crit if we want. And this is one of the times you might say, hey, red crit's better than than something else. I can, than a double damage side. It's possible. But that might be something that you consider doing. But in this case, I'm going to go with the super heavy composite beam turbo lasers. This one is not as long range as the orbital bombardment cannons. That one you place it at long. This one you place it at medium. So it's still very, very long, but not quite. But the thing that makes this one so cool is that ignition red crit. The defender suffers a damage, and this happens for each red and blue crit icon in the pool. So this one crit here, if you happen to get your dice lined up correctly, could be 5 additional damage on top of the normal effect, which is insane. And then we can also make sure we can exhaust fire control team and trigger XX9. Which means there's going to be a pretty good chance of at least 2 damage being dealt face up, which is awesome. So we're going to put the super heavy composite beam turbo laser on there. And for good measure, let's put one more critical effect on there. Now this one is only, situational. And we might not do this all the time. This one might be especially good if we don't have very many blue or red crits. We can pop Sunder. And Sunder is going to let us discard an upgrade, whether it's offensive retrofit, defensive retrofit, or one of our ordnance ion cannon or turbo laser upgrades from the defender. So, hey, somebody's got ECM all the way far away. No problem. Let's get rid of that ECM early on in the game before they really get the chance to use it. That's kind of one of those things I would love to see. I'm sorry, did you have rapid launch bays? Oh, you know what? We just blew up your rapid launch bays. Now all those B-Wings that you had on board your ship are dead. I love the flexibility that this brings. And this is a blue or black crit, so you have a slightly better chance of triggering this one with the Onager Star Destroyer as well. So cool title. Now you're not going to be able to run 3 critical effects with this one, so you're going to have to pick 2. But since Sunder is a one-time only thing, you discard this card to use its effect. The rest of the game we're going to have 2. And so, this gives you the choice of, hey, which 2 do I want to use? First turn, you might just go with super heavy composite beam turbo laser and Sunder. And you might just say, you know what, I don't need to worry about the face-up damage here. I already got rid of, the card that made you a threat. And then next turn, because it may all go to shields on the first turn anyway. So, yeah, so that's kind of the thought process behind this build. I think this is a solid looking Onager at this point, but some other people said, hey, do you see some synergy between the Onager and the Interdictor? And I think there is some. Now, oh, we have one more thing we need to add to the Onager, though. And this is a good one, because we are going to go with a fairly decent initiative bid here. We're going to try and get first player. I think first player is super important here. And so we're going to try. But if we don't, it's kind of okay too, because then Gunnery Chief gets a little bit of a boost. You know, that's fine. But I am going to put price on this one. I don't use price a whole lot lately, but price has a very, very clear option in this one. And that you just choose turn 1. I'm going with expensive ships. I'm already at almost 200 points, right? I'm not going to have a whole lot of ships in this build. I want to go last on turn 1. This way I activate, place my beacon, and then go first next turn. And that's, like I'm going to be able to last in, first out you right away. Nothing you can do about it, right? That's the kind of idea. Because sometimes, like, for those other things where you go with price and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to put this on my Kuat and pick turn 3 or something like that. And your opponent like goes real hard and heavy at you and tries to kill you before then. That's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen here. So I like that. So I think unless, of course, you were running like the Cataclysm with Tarkin or something like that, to where you were going to try and shoot first at that super extreme range, unless you were doing that. Otherwise, I think price is a really good option for an Onager. So let's put in an Interdictor for our next ship. The Interdictor, we're going to go with a suppression refit so we can get both of those experimental retrofits. And, this is, and this is great. Now, you could make the argument for putting Phylon Q7s. You want to slow down. Like, the idea is the Interdictor is going to try and keep people from kind of zooming in and rushing in and trying to kill your Onager right away. But since I'm only a medium ship, I'm going to go with something different. I'm taking a different approach, but I could definitely see and would support using Phylons on the Interdictor. That would be fine. But I'm going to use the G8 instead. Because that one can get ships bigger than me. That can even slow down an SSD if I needed to, which is quite helpful. Also, we are, which actually, you know what, I think this is even better now too, because like if somebody's running an SSD with, like Jerjerrod or something like that, you'll also stop them from turning, which is really great. So, of course, then they'll have to nav up to speed 2, probably. But then you just let them go. Maybe they'll go too far that way, Yeah, I like having the option. And then for our other option, we're going to go with the grab shift reroute. And that is basically because you're going to be setting up long. Like the Onager feels in a lot of ways like the SSD in that you deploy it in the back and it can reach all the way across the board right away. And I think, but it's got weak sides on the side. So people are going to try to flank you similar to how they would try to flank an SSD in some respects. And I think the grab shift reroute is going to kind of help, put tokens, put those obstacles, get them out of the way, or potentially get them, to defend your weak spot, to defend your flank. So I think grab shift reroute will be really fun on that regard. So since we're not running Phylons, I'm going to put disposable capacitors, since that's pretty good on an Interdictor, which has tons of blue dice. And we will put heavy ion emplacements on this Interdictor, because we wanted this Interdictor to have some teeth. And running it this way, it absolutely has teeth. We will also run the Interdictor title to use with G8. So this way, we can slow 2 ships down in case we get kind of overrun by, a couple of CR90s or something like that. We can slow them down trying to get in. And I think we'll have enough dice to kind of wreck some faces with those heavy ion emplacements and disposable capacitors. I think we could probably, blow up a couple of CR90s without too much difficulty. And if they do get around us, well, that's another benefit of the Onager Star Destroyer, is that we still have 3 red dice and a black on the side. So our side arcs are not very weak here. They're not very weak at all. And our rear arc is actually pretty respectful too. So if they get in and they do manage to hit us, we still have salvo built in. All right, so let's see. Those are our big ships. Now we're 298 points. I am going to put one more tiny little ship just for deployment purposes. I'm going to drop a Gazanti in there. No upgrades at all in the Gazanti. We're going to put the rest of these points in squadrons. I'm going to put some expensive squadrons in here now. Now, granted, I want my Onager and the Interdictor doing other things. I don't want them dedicated to squadrons, so I'm going to put a couple of rogues in. And I love Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder because you can sort by ships. So let me find rogues. Oh, there it is. Boom. I'm going to put 2 fire sprays, just generic fire sprays. They're great squadrons, though. They're good at everything that they do. They're normal speed, pretty good hull. They're bomber, lots of blue dice, so almost no bad results there. And they're rogue. They're not too expensive. 3 dice against squadrons, 2 dice against ships. So obviously they're better, a better investment if you can attack ships with them. You've got 2 of them, then that's great. Now we do have the Gazanti, which can activate some squadrons. So for the other 2 squadrons I'm going to add, I'm going to go with some TIE defenders, which are a little better than the fire sprays, but they don't have rogue. But that's what our Gazanti can do. We're going to have 2 blue and 2 black against squadrons, and a blue with bomber, but they're speed 5 also, and even cheaper. I really do like the TIE defenders. They're quite nice, and they're good. You know, and we have a lot of hit points built into these guys. So that Gazanti will be able to move the defenders. The fire sprays will be able to move on their own. And we've got 4 squadrons that all pack a punch. So we've got a decent little medium-sized squadron force to kind of help against the big squadron balls that could, in theory, come in and mess with us. And that leaves us with 389 points. That's an 11-point bid. So there is a reasonable, respectable chance that we could end up with first player here. And I mean, you could obviously add a few more things to the Gazanti if you wanted to. Slicer tools wouldn't be a bad idea, but then you're going to have less chance of getting first player. Then Governor Price's whole, thing will be then less useful as well. So that's the whole point of having Price, is to try and go first player. Now, if you really wanted to up the bid, that would be no problem. You could just change out some of these squadrons, go a little bit cheaper. Heck, you could drop the 2 TIE defenders down to 2 TIE fighters. That would make you 273. I think that would absolutely guarantee you first player, but because there's 16 points and TIE fighters are 8 points. But like somewhere in between, some kind of healthy medium in between that would probably do it. But I like the idea of having 4 squadrons, so I can deploy Gazanti, 2 squadrons, then Interdictor, then Onager last. Something like that. I kind of like that flexibility that gives. So let's look at objectives before we close out the list here. Because, it's really just these 2 ships, right? That's why Price is so important here. To try to trigger Sunder, to get rid of some important upgrades off of a ship. That'd be just great. So if we do end up as second player, well, I already talked about it. I don't think advanced gunnery is going to work with the ignition arc. We'll get more clarification on that, which we're pretty sure it's not going to work because they kind of almost blatantly said that. But yeah, so I don't think that's going to work. So I'm going with Most Wanted. That's one of the other reasons that the generic Gazanti is in there. But Most Wanted is also going to... Wow, there we go. Yeah, Most Wanted is also going to give me an extra die. While attacking an objective ship, you may add 1 die of any color that is already in its attack pool. That's another thing that makes the Onager Star Destroyer so much better. You got every color, so you can add an extra blue if you want to try and get that extra blue crit to make that composite beam turbo laser do even more damage. It could be like 6, maybe you concentrate fire to 7 extra damage for 1 crit. Like, you could, I mean, really, I could see it happening, right? I could see you potentially one-shotting big ships that way. I mean, how much could you even get there? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, let's just say I rolled all red crits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It could be 9 damage off of that. And if they brace that, it would be to 5. But then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, yeah. If I added 2 more, anyway, I'm not going to do all the math right now. You could get a lot of damage even with a brace. I love it. Okay, yellow. We've got our planetary ion cannon here. And this kind of fits into that last in, first out thing. I want, I want to take out, that objective ship. I want to take out that flagship. Or I want to take out one significant ship, maybe even a smaller medium ship with that, with that ignition arc. I want to try and do that with double crits and all of that. Well, maybe the planetary ion cannon can soften up the shields before this big attack comes through. That's one of the things I'm hoping to do. And so that would be good. And then Solar Corona will be my third option. Solar Corona is just generally good, and I think the Onager firing from so far away in that one direction will definitely help. And plus, they have to deploy everything first, so just this kind of win-win. I absolutely love that one. So that is the list, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the description below. I would love to hear from you. I definitely always appreciate what you guys have as far as your input goes, and definitely helps and brings a smile to my face. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I will put a link to Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder in the description below. It is a website. It is not an app, but it is mobile friendly. Works really good on your mobile devices. And if you donate, you get to save your progress and all that other stuff, which is pretty cool. I definitely suggest donating. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I also want to thank my patrons for their continued support. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you all so much. And happy Life Day, and as always, have a great day.